So we're going to start today sitting, but just before you get started, have your resistance band or even a long scarf close by. Um, and for today, you might also want to utilize something to hold on to, like a chair that you can bring close to you, or even a stool, or a couple yoga blocks, um, and perhaps some extra padding under the knees may come in handy as well. All right, and good morning, Barbara. So if you, whatever you have, whether it's a resistance band or even like a scarf, let's bring it around the back of our ribs. So if you bring it where the bottoms of your back ribs are, so a little bit above the waist, and this is where we can feel the movement of our breath through our diaphragm and our ribs. So if you bring it there around your back, kind of as flat as you can, so that you can really sense it on your body. And then you can cross it in front of you and just hold it, not so much pulling and tightening it, but just enough to keep it on your body from slipping down. Okay? So we've got it crossed. I like to have my palms up as I cross. I've got my cat today, Griffin, watching, sitting right in front of my screen. You can't see him, but you might see ears pop up every now and then. So anyway, hopefully he doesn't end the Zoom call on us. All right. So find your comfortable seat here, however that may be. So I'm sitting on a block between my feet. You're welcome to sit on a chair or on the floor in any other way. Okay? Whatever lets your spine sit up nice and tall. So just take a bit of time here and get comfortable landing into your seat, shifting as needed to sense the ground and sense the spine light and tall through the center. You can feel free to close your eyes. And as you keep that scarf or band around your lower ribs, this may help you sense the movement of your breath in all directions. So when we inhale and our lungs expand, our diaphragm releases down, which gently pushes on our organs and expands our belly. So with each inhale, there's this natural widening, left to right, front to back, side to side, up and down, kind of like a balloon that expands with the inhale. And then with each exhale, as you let go of the breath, there's a narrowing, there's a softening, there's a drawing in towards the center. So you might sense that a little better with that band around your lower ribs. With each inhale, you might feel your body pushing gently out into that band. Try not to make it happen, just feel it happen, however subtle or slight it may be. And then it's with each exhale, as you're letting go of the breath, slowly and completely, you might just very gently feel that band tightening around you as your ribs narrow, waist narrows a wee bit as you let go of all the breath. So let's just feel that motion. Breath expanding, widening as you inhale, and then body narrowing as you exhale. We tend to think of the breath as happening just in the front of our body. So here we can maybe sense it a little more into our sides, and hopefully even into your back a little more. So let's feel that out for a couple more cycles. And then let's see if you can, let's let that go. Just set aside your band and relax your hands and see if you're able, as you just sit for a couple more cycles of breath, if you're still able to sense those expansive movements, front to back, side to side, through those lower ribs with each inhale. And then this gentle narrowing, drawing back in towards the center with each exhale. And then whenever you're ready, let your eyes flutter open. Let's interlace our fingers together. Send the palms to stretch forward. Nice stretch through fingers, palms, wrists, forearms. We could even round through the back and feel the width across our back widen. Shoulder blades spreading further apart. That's it. And then send the arms to lift as the spine lifts. So you get a little more space through each side of the body. You could try a little side bend in each direction, little wiggles. Good. And then reach both arms wide and back. So you're releasing the fingers, reach behind as you sweep the arms down. Interlace the opposite way this time, so the other hand on top. Push again, forward through the palms. So slightly different stretch, just with that other hand on top. I get into, some different fingers, finger joints. So feeling that out, you can gently round as you hug in and up again through the front of the belly. That's it. And then lift and lengthen up again, finding a couple side bends, easy in each direction. And then release the fingers, reach wide and down. Maybe a few shoulder circles or shrugs. Okay, and then let's come into table pose. And if you have your resistance band, you can bring it again around the back ribs, even back waist area. So the center of it is there. And you're going to hold on, securing the ends under your palms as you find your table pose. So the idea here is to feel that band, or even a blanket could work. You just want a bit of give on it in this shape, so that when we round into our cat tilt, we can sense ourselves pushing through our back ribs up into that band. And then as you inhale, feel your ribs sort of release down, chest widens as the head and the tailbone lift. So each exhale, push back ribs up as you round your spine. And then each inhale, feel more of the lift through head and tail. That's it. And each exhale, as you keep going, sensing that push up into the band, you're also pushing down through your palms at the same time. So feel that action pushing down through the palms as ribs push up, head, tail, release down. And feel that one more time. Okay, and then find yourself moving a little towards your cat tilt, but not quite rounding. So just try to feel like your back ribs are pushing up a little more into that band. A little bit of that lift and width through the front of the belly. Hands are going to stay where they are as we send one leg back and then the other leg back into plank. And you can lower the first knee and then the second knee. Feel a full breath here, pushing a little more up into that band as you straighten the other leg first, and then stretch through both legs into your full plank. Let's feel a full breath right here. pushing down through the hands while we're pushing up into our band. And then lower the first knee and then the second knee. That's it, nice. All right, now let's take the band away and see if we can still sense that push up through the backs of the ribs as we're pressing down through our hands. So there's a bit of lift. Front ribs are lifting a little bit further away from the ground, and even the tailbone's curling sort of down slightly as we straighten one leg from your table and then straighten the other leg. And so often what happens in our plank is our hips and our belly and ribs kind of sink more with gravity. So see if you can push further down with your hands and reach further up. Yeah, through front ribs, hips, belly, back through heels for one more breath in your plank. Now with your exhale, let's go ahead and send the hips back. Bend the knees, push the hips up and back through to your downward dog. You might have to shift where your feet are. And let's feel another breath or two with that. All right. Now, let's lower the knees down to the ground. Have your band nearby. We're going to step our right foot forward. So bring the middle of your band underneath your right foot. If you don't have a band, you can use free weights, like, just light hand weights, 5 pounds max, I'd say, for these movements. Or just do the movement without the band, okay? So you're going to feel the motion still through your arms. So we're holding on to each end. You can tighten it up for more resistance or loosen it up for less resistance. We're going to do a fairly large movement in the arms, so you'll probably want the whole length of your band, so hands towards the ends. So before we start to move our upper body, upper arms, let's feel the security of our legs. Push down through the right foot, stand into the top of that back foot. See if you can even feel the back glute engage a little more as you press down through the back leg. That's it. Kind of curling and tucking the tail under a wee bit. So with the shoulders staying right above our hips, let's pull up forward on the band, reaching as high as you can comfortably bring your arms and then lowering them back down. Okay? So just feeling that motion a few more. You got it. Really nice. So when we're lifting the arms, see if you can keep your back from arching. So we're getting into our shoulder mobility while maintaining a pretty strong, stable core and lower half. Yeah, if you've got the band under that right foot, you might feel how it pulling up on it sort of destabilizes you or wants to destabilize you. So you've got to find that security and push down further through the right foot. Really nice. And then last one, let's pull up and stay with that, reaching high overhead as we continue to push down through both legs. Let's feel one more breath with it. Very good. Lower the hands. You can set aside your band or weights, taking yourself back to table. And let's curl the toes under. With the toes curled under, just try to find all 5 toes on each foot curling under. That's it, so that you can both push down through your hands and your toes to lift your hips up and back into downward dog. Let's do that move a couple more times. So slowly lower the knees, landing as lightly as you can, and then push down through the hands as you lift the hips up and back. So feeling this action of pushing yourself up through the hips and down through the hands. That's it. Finding that active push to lift ourselves away from the ground, right? And then you can pause in downward dog for a couple of breaths there. Try to slow down the exhales, paying attention to them. And as you're here breathing in, are you able to sense that expansion again into side ribs, into back ribs, as well as the front? All right, let's lower the knees again. Coming into a kneeling shape, we can step our left foot forward into our band if you're using it. This one's going to be a little different, what we do with our arms. So again, you can go without any holding on to anything in the hands, or you can hold on to weights or your band. So feel the security from the hips down. As you bring more weight into your back leg, you're going to feel that back glute engage a little more, tucking the tail under, nice stretch through the front of that hip. So let's stay tall as we start out with our elbows up at shoulder level, bent at around 90 degrees. So we can sense our elbows reaching out to the sides. We're already pulling up if you're using the band. While we keep our elbows right where they are, can we rotate to turn knuckles forward and then knuckles to the sky again, finding some of that rotation in the shoulders. That's it. So we're moving from our shoulders as we rotate just this little bit, turning knuckles forward, knuckles up. We're trying to keep our elbows bent at that same angle the whole time, and up as much as we can keep them at chest or shoulder level. You got it. Feeling this action working into our upper back a little bit, as well as our shoulder rotators. Let's do 2 more. Find your breath with it. I like to exhale as I'm pulling up into that harder movement. Feel the inhale as knuckles go forward. Yeah. And then last one, let's keep it with knuckles up, elbows wide, reaching them out to the sides. Can we sense a full, slow breath right here? Very good. Release that down. Nicely done. Set aside your band. Bring again both hands to the floor. Table pose. Curl those toes under. And once again, push down through the hands. Send the hips up. You can keep the knees bent until you're in your downward dog, and then lower the knees again as lightly as you can. Feel that out a couple more times. So we're getting that action of pushing down through the palms in order to lift through the hips. So if we wanted to lower the knees and then lower our bum, how would we get there, right? Usually we lower the knees, so this requires lots of movement through the toes, as you can feel. And then you could walk your hands, towards one side where you can land that hip into the ground and you are sitting on your bum. And then you can bring your hands back to the floor on that same side, push again into the hands because you want to then lift your hips and walk back into your table. Yeah. So you could try it on the other side, walking the hands over to the other side in order to bring the hip down. You're on the floor, you can swing around on both sitting bones. And then with both knees bent, hands again over to that side where you're pushing down in order to lift up to walk again forward. So you can try that out a couple more times on each side. You can come into the downward dog in between if you like. You might also try, instead of moving your hands, moving your knees to one side. So when you're in this table, you can hover your table pose just before they land, your knees land, you can bring them to one side. And you're basically in the same position, just a different way of getting there, right? So as you're lowering your knees, you can swing them to the other side to land. So this, you're bringing probably a little more weight into that one hand, pushing down to lift, back to center. That's it. So feeling this action a couple times if you can. Or going back to hands walking over to the one side to bring the hip down. So feel that out as you continue to breathe. Whoop. You got it. Back through table, feeling free to pause in downward dog before taking it to the other side. Yeah, that's it. So feeling some of those connections between hands, shoulders, core, getting into hips and knees a little. Whew. All right. And then let's bring it back to table so we can just take a moment's rest in child's pose. That's it. You can land hips back, release, upper body forward. Feel free to make a pillow for your head with your hands if you like. Knees, of course, can be as wide as you wish. And in this shape, it might be a little easier to sense the motions of the breath in your back. Back ribs widen and lift with the inhale. And then settle and soften with the exhale. Okay. And then let's just practice moving down to the ground from this sort of kneeling position. Okay, so we could walk our hands forward to come down onto our belly. So we might walk our hands wider apart, kind of just under the shoulders, but a little wider in order to then lower ourselves. So definitely lots of work there in the upper body. And then reversing it, pushing into the hands, squeezing the elbows in a bit, where we can push ourselves back up, lifting our hips, walking the hands back. So trying that maybe one more time, walking hands forward, so the hips might come now forward of our knees, so that we can bend our elbows to lower with control. And then feel free to, bring the hands somewhere different. Just to feel the hands pushing down, connecting with your shoulders and upper back to push you up, back into more of a child's pose. Now, to avoid the wrists, or even just to feel things a different way, you could also walk forward and back on your forearms, right? So getting familiar with that, and that might even be a little easier. So pushing down through the forearms, so you have to get them fairly close and underneath you in order to lift your hips, and then walk the forearms back. Walking the forearms forward to lower your hips. Yeah, so when we find ourselves on the ground, there are just so many different ways of moving and lifting up and away and lowering down. Yeah. So if you find a couple different ways, go for it. Maybe you prefer palms. It's definitely a little more of a challenge in the upper body strength, I find, right? Because you have farther to lower and farther to lift up from when you're on your hands versus when you're on your forearms. Yeah. So I just sort of did a combo there. Pushing up from my forearms and then walking the hands in, walking the hands forward, then lowering the forearms to come down. Okay, so next time you push back, come back into that table shape where we can again curl the toes under and push ourselves up back into downward dog. You got it. Find your breath. So just doing those up and down movements with the upper body may have quickened the heart rate and the breath rate a little. So just pay attention to a few cycles as they slow down here as best you can. Then we're going to walk our feet forward, or walk the hands back, right? And as you do that, as your hands and feet get closer, bend the knees as much as you need to. And allow for the release of your head. Enjoy a nice stretch and release through the spine. And then when you're ready, you can push into your feet down in order to slowly rise up. Yeah, feeling that out. Okay, so we're going to get back to the lower body in a bit, but let's do a little more for the upper body. So if you have a band, it stretches, right? If you have something that's not stretchy to hold on to, like a yoga belt or a scarf, just let your hands start out quite wide with this one, okay? So let's begin standing where our feet around shoulder, hip distance apart, and you can stand into the heels, maybe a touch more, rolling your weight back a little bit. So hips are right above the heels, shoulders are right above the hips, and just get a sense of the head floating tall above your shoulders. Let's go ahead and try to keep the elbows straight as we send the arms forward and up. Now, as they lift up, we're trying to keep our elbows straight. You're going to want to reach the arms wider to go back all the way behind you. So this is where hands wide on a non-stretchy thing that you're holding on to really is needed for those shoulders. Reach behind you, come all the way up slowly, and again, all the way down in front. So feel that out. Trying to keep the spine still, meaning when we take our arms behind us, we're not letting our ribs flare forward or our bum reach back. So trying not to arch through the lower back. Yeah. So if that's happening, bring your hands wider apart so that your shoulders can do the movement. Yes. You want this to feel good. This will definitely get into some tight spots, but you don't want to feel any pinching or anything in your shoulders. So find the range that you can do. One more time. Yeah, that's great. Okay. And then send the arms up overhead. You may need to go even wider with your hands if you're using a scarf. Let's go down with our right arm, up with our left, and let the spine move with you now into a side bend. Great. Coming up again through center and over to the other side. As we go to this side, pull up with your top arm as the other arm pulls down. You got it. Feel it out in each direction. Trying not to send your hips to one side, but more keeping them above your feet. So it's your spine that's moving. That's it. One more in each direction. Very good. Oh yeah, that's a nice one. Nice stretch through the side body. And then bring the arms in front of you. Now, if you've got a stretchy band, you're going to be pulling with one arm as the other arm stays forward. If you're holding on to something that isn't stretchy, you're just going to let your arms move with you into the twist. We're going to twist from the waist up. So imagine you have like headlights on both of your hip bones there. They're going to try to stay facing straight ahead with your navel and pubic bone, more or less. Now let's pull with our right arm. Let's twist slowly to the right. So if you've got that stretchy band, your hands are pulling and stretching apart. You got it. And then come back through center and find the other hand pulling as you move into the twist from the waist up. So sense the stability from the hips down through your legs as you keep moving like this into the twist in one direction, back slowly through center, finding the twist in the other direction. Yes. And if you're pulling on that stretchy band, you'll probably feel it a little more in between your shoulder blades, especially the arm that's doing the pulling back. Yeah. Nice. Last one to the left or your second side. Great. And then come back to center. Whoo. Good. All right. Now let's combine a little bit more movement with our arms as well as our legs. So you can do this without a stretchy band and simply follow the same movements in the arms. It's still great for the shoulders. Or if you have a stretchy band, let's step into it with our right foot forward and our left foot back a bit. So find that stance for yourself. Just figure out how long of a stance you want from front to back foot, and then find your stability in that stance from left to right. So you might bring that front foot a little further out to the right. Ideally, both hips, both feet are still facing straight ahead with this one. So holding on to the band, you might tighten it up a little bit if you've got it, or you can also use weights for this. Let's simply keep the front knee a little bent, back leg more or less straight, pushing into that back heel, and then bend just a little bit forward. You got it. So that we can pull up on the band and our elbows are reaching back and up. That's it. And the hands land more by lower waist rather than up here by the chest or lower ribs. So further back. So slowly lower the hands so the arms are straight again. And then pull up and back, trying to keep those upper arms close beside you. Lowering them down. What's moving? Just our arms with this one. Can you sense each time you pull the elbows up and back, your shoulder blades pulling sort of in and down the back? Yeah. So chest stays wide. And if you've got the band under your right foot, you're really feeling how that, again, might try to destabilize you, right? So right foot, right leg might have to work a little harder. Last one here with movement. Now, if you've got a band, you might just slacken off on it a bit so that you can go into that same pulling movement with elbows up, shoulder blades, sliding them down a bit away from the ears. Can we keep our upper arms where they are and straighten the elbows, pulling back? That's it. So if it's too high, just loosen up. Too hard, loosen up on that band. Pulling and bending. That's it. We're trying to find the movement just in our elbows. So keeping them up for last two here. We don't have to do too many of these. We really can feel that work in our triceps, the bottoms of our upper arms. So let's pull back and hold this. Feel the reach of the arms back and up while your chest and head more reach forward and up for one more breath. Woo! Oh yeah, lower that. You can let that go. And then just slide your hands, if you like, down that front leg. This is where a couple blocks or the stool, if you have it close by, can come out handy for the hands to land onto if they don't quite get to the ground. Or just keep them on that front leg. Let's feel a nice release through the back here. So finding some gentle flexion through the spine and maybe breathing again a little deeper into the back body. Come back up, holding on to your band again, so that we can slowly tip our weight forward into our front foot, pulling up and back again with our arms as we maybe lift off those back toes. The ground is there whenever you need it. If you've got the band again, that right leg is pushing into it as your hands pull further up and back. Finding another breath with your balance. Land that. Take the band out. Just give everything a wee shake. Nicely done. Yeah. Love it. Okay. Similar, but a little different. Okay, so again, if you have your band, let's step into it with our left foot forward this time. Left foot in front, right foot behind. Find the length of your stance that feels stable and strong. Back toes facing as much forward as that hip lets you, with the heel on the ground. So we're really strong through our back leg. We can find our front leg a little bent, holding on to the ends of your band. I would say have a little more slack on the band for this one, not as tight, okay? Because we're gonna just maybe start upright for the most part and pull the arms up in front of you and then back down. Wide out to the sides and back down. So we're going to alternate forward and up, wide and up. Now, the further forward you bend with your upper body, trying not to round your back as best you can. So most of the movements coming from our hips rather than our upper back. So try to find that. The more forward you are, and you keep going with it, the different angle you are moving against gravity, right? Gravity is working harder. We are working harder against gravity to lift our arms forward and up, and then wide and up. That's it. Feel that as you breathe. Finding perhaps the exhale helping you out each time you pull. Arms out and up, forward and up. Last, out and up. And then you decide whether you're going to hold forward and up or wide and up. For another full breath, I'm going to go with wide. Fantastic. Lowering slowly. You can release the band and release there over that front leg. It becomes a good stretch for the back of that front leg and for the back itself. See if you can let go through the neck as you feel each breath. Slowing down the exhales little by little. Holding onto the band again, push down through your feet to rise up. Now let's find the balance on this side. Again, you could choose arms wide or arms forward. I'm going to go forward. Little by little, send more weight into your front foot. If you can, lift off your back leg. That's it. You're pushing strongly down through your standing leg as you're lifting and reaching with the arms. Finding your balance within. And then let that go. Very good, everybody. Yeah. All right. We can set aside our band for now. Okay. We're feeling a little stronger through the upper body, arms, back, shoulders. Yeah, and hopefully even a little through the legs, but let's work into the legs a little more. And this is where eventually you might appreciate having something to just hold, have your hands on for a little support, okay? So we can think about how we need to get to the ground. So if we, not even if we needed to sit on the ground necessarily, but even just to pick something up or to look at something low. So I'd say two main ways we could bend at the hips to bend down, right? Lots of movement in the hips, so feel free to try that out. Bending forward at the hips. Of course, knees can be bent with that too, right? So when we're doing this movement, requires quite a bit of flexibility in our hips and quite a bit of strength in our back to keep our back secure and strong. There's Griffin. Griffin, he's coming down. All right, buddy. Or we can move more from our knees and our ankles, right? So we might squat down in order to get something on the ground. So you can try that out, right? So this is a squat down. You might have to bring your feet wider. You might have to turn your feet out. Maybe your heels lift. Just notice what happens in your body to do that action, right? And then one of the other main ways is like one leg a little forward and turned out. So that leg is going to be your squat, and the other, you're coming onto the toes and your knee is bent more and pointing forward. So you could try that, whichever leg you want. Forward a bit, coming down just as low as you do. And this is where having something to push down onto to help you come up can be a good help. Okay, so use whatever you've got in front of you, beside you. Try it with the other leg a little forward, right? So we have a bit of space between our feet, front to back. And in our daily lives, we tend to favor one leg in this squat position, the other leg in more of that kneeling on the toes. Yeah, so for me, I'm on my more awkward side. So in order to come up, we need to really feel the push down through our feet. So we're working our legs. And if you don't have that full support to lift, then you can, of course, push into something with your hands. Yeah. All right. So try a couple more other variations as you like. Bending down at the hips, working more through glutes and upper, lower back. Bending more at knees, hips, ankles. We're asking our legs to work quite a bit harder. Yeah, that's it. Whether it's a symmetrical squat or more of that asymmetrical squat. That's it. Yeah, excellent. And each time you come up, can you feel the push down through your feet? Yes. And when you really press into your foot or both feet, you can feel that glute engaging a little more, hopefully. That's a big muscle that'll help you lift up. All right. Nice. Okay. And then let's make our way all the way down to the ground. So you could come into it through that squat and then lower knees and then bum, or directly to the bum. Okay, that's it. So come to the bum. Notice where your knees are. And then you might try bringing both knees over to the other side. Yeah, tucking the feet to a point opposite of the knees. And then again, bring your weight back into your hands and bring the knees over to the other side. So you can do this in a couple different ways, right? You can lean and lift and come over, right? And then the next step would be hands over towards where your knees are pointing to bring yourself up into that table shape in order to lift. But let's just sort of feel this mid-level position. You might try it on the other side to try to lift, pressing into your hands, and then lowering. So then let's try keeping both feet on the ground. You might bring them a little wider apart, and you can lean into your hands and do a windshield wiper move with those knees side to side. Yeah. Now you could try the windshield wiper move without your hands. So this is asking a lot more in your back and core. You might find yourself kind of rounding as your bum lowers, and then when your knees go to the other side, you get a little more of that lift and length. So notice what needs to happen in your body in order for this movement to happen. And if your hands need to stay on the ground, totally good. Okay, that's it. Yeah, great. And then come into the knees pointing in one direction. So my knees are pointing over to my right. So I'm going to now bring more weight into my right hand. Yeah. Okay. So I'm leaning on my right buttock and my right hand. So whichever side you're on. Let's take the other hand, top hand, to that top hip. And let's see about just finding this movement in our pelvis to rotate sort of left and right. Yeah. So we're kind of moving our top hip back and then top hip forward. However much you've got, however much movement. That's it. Now try to keep that top hip rotating to point towards that bent knee that's in front of you so that you can try lifting again your bottom or your back leg up and down. Yes. So you might feel that right away where it's activating into your side, thigh, and glute. Yes. So can we keep the knee up and straighten the leg and swing it in front of you? Now we've landed onto both buttocks. Then lean again to that right side or whichever side you're on to swing the leg behind you as it bends. You can lower the foot and then lift it to swing in front, swinging back behind. Now again, you can try this with hand support and without hand support. That's it. You can also try to minimize the movement in the upper body. That's going to ask a lot more in that hip and glute. So whatever works for you on this leg. Excellent. Whoo. Okay, then let's straighten out that leg in front so that we end up coming into this nice seated shape where we have one leg straight, the other knee bent. If you want, you can bring your band around the sole of your foot. It's nice to have something to hold on to, so you could also do that with the blanket. But we're going to try to pull a bit with each arm in a moment. But first, settle into both sitting bones. Feel free to support that right knee or the bent knee with a pillow or block underneath it. And try to land into the back of that straight leg. So knee and toes point to the sky. So here, let's feel our shoulders against our back, spine light and tall as we face our straight leg. Then pull back with the hand, the elbow, and turn in that direction. And then pull with the other arm, elbow, and turn in that direction. Feel these little twists going on through the waist as we do our best to stay up tall through the spine. That's it. So feel the pull of elbow back, and that helps you twist in that direction. Yeah. One more in each direction here. So that we can land for a moment, turning towards our bent leg. You can relax that hand on your leg, okay? If you have the band, I suggest slacking off on it a lot in order to straighten that arm and reach out to the side. That's it. So sending that right arm or arm out towards your corner, and then you could try within your twist, leaning a little towards your straight leg. You might feel this nice opening here into the front of your chest. If you want a little more stretch through the side, you can send the arm up as high as you like, continuing to pull on that band. Let's breathe deeply into this side body. Really great. And then lower the arm. We can turn briefly towards that straight leg. You're welcome to keep hold of your band or blanket belt and release for a moment over that front leg. Nice stretch for the back for one more breath here. Okay, and then come on upright again. Bend, so lean again into that same hand that you had leaned into earlier, my right, bending that left knee. And then hands can be behind you as you do a couple windshield wipers. You might have to reorient in your space, yeah. Maybe try without the hands. That's it. Hip mobility and strength is it's such an important element, a vital element to getting up from the ground. So this is what we're doing. Let's go with the knees over to the other side. So now I'm on left buttock, left hand behind, right knee. You could try pointing that right knee or the other knee, sort of back knee, out away from that hip. So we can take the hand on the hip as we keep leaning into our hand. Can you lift this leg? This one's a lot more challenging for me. These muscles on the outside of the glute and thigh aren't as strong for me on this side. So do what you can do. You might have to lean quite a bit away in order to lift. You're just trying to minimize that lean as much as possible. If this side can handle it, you're welcome to take the hand away and give it a try. Whew, that one's a little tricky. So then could we lift and then straighten out the legs, swing it around, we land on our bum. Then we lean again in order to swing the leg out and behind, bending that knee. So feel it out in each direction, with or without the support of your hands. And you can just try your best to stay as upright as you can, minimizing the movement in the upper body just as much as this hip lets you. For one more full swing. Yes. We're so low to the ground. Gravity is really, we're having to work hard against it when we lift that leg. So let's bring it in front of us, maybe a little out to the side. Find that position again with one knee bent, turned out, maybe a block or blanket supporting it. And if you want, you can bring that band again around the sole of your foot. Nice. So find yourself tall through the spine above the hips. And I like to exhale into the twist, pulling back with the one elbow to turn in that direction, and then pulling back with the other elbow to twist. Twisting from the waist up. So keeping that security down through sitting bones, legs, and finding the action of the belly helping us turn. Each exhale, pulling in and up through the belly to twist. Each inhale, maybe coming through center to go in the other direction. And then turning towards your bent knee. We can rest that arm on that leg, same leg as we're pulling with the other arm. You might slacken up first on the band to reach that arm out at around shoulder height. Pulling and turning towards the bent knee, and then leaning a little more towards your straight leg as you keep feeling chest, belly, head opening towards your bent leg. Now this arm is welcome to stay at shoulder level, or you can send it a little higher. As I send it higher, I'm bringing the band behind my head, but you might have to keep it in front for another breath or two here. Ooh, really good. And then taking yourself back to turn more towards your straight leg. You can have hands still holding your band or relax on the leg or beside you. And find the release of the spine for another breath right here over the legs. And then make your way back upright. Give both legs a little shake out in front. Okay, nice. And then let's come onto the back. So making your way onto your back in any way you like. And just as you land here, get a sense of how your hips and your thighs are feeling. And you can rest the arms out either like a T shape, palms facing up, or you could even bring them a little higher, more like a V shape from your shoulders. Whatever lets the length of your arms relax into the ground, through the backs of the hands, through to the shoulders. So let's feel the feet come wider on the mat and do a couple windshield wipers here. And with these windshield wipers, let's try to emphasize the knee that's falling in. So inner knee moving down towards the ground. And that might give you a nice stretch through those front thighs, up into the hip, and perhaps even into the waist. You could turn the head opposite of your knees here. Good, and then keeping the knees to one side, and you can stack them one over the other, feeling free to let that hand rest on your top thigh while your head continues to rest in the opposite direction of your knees. Noticing each breath, expanding into that top side. Belly, ribs, waist, chest, expanding as you breathe in, and softening and settling as you breathe out. And then bring your feet back to the ground, back through center with the knees. Feel free to just take a moment to shift there, keeping the feet wide for a moment, letting them roll or rest over to the other side. And then stacking the knees. Whew. Noticing how this side's feeling. Feeling free to lower that arm that's opposite of the knees. You can bend the elbow, soften into the palm and fingers, or keep the arms stretching higher beyond the head. What does this side need as you breathe into the tight spots? And then when you're ready, return to center. And just allow yourself to find some soft stillness here as you take a moment or two to end your practice in some comfort. Finding some comfortable alignment for the legs to relax into, whether they're stretched out or keeping the knees bent, feet flat on the mat. How do the arms want to relax? And see if you can just pay attention to a few more breaths here. Breaths moving into your body, expanding. And breaths slowly narrowing the body as you release. Now let's slowly start to deepen the inhale. That's it. Feel free to sigh out the exhale. Doing that a couple more times as you wish. And we can move into the fingers and the toes. Yeah, circle into the wrists and the ankles. And then feel free to stretch and lengthen through the whole body as a nice check-in. And bring the knees in, check in with your lower back with a gentle rock there, side to side. And then you can come up to sitting any way you like, maybe rolling to one side for a breath or two. Yeah, where we can again push with our hands to bring ourselves up. Excuse me. All right, as you sit, find your spine in the center. Notice the change in the hips and legs, shoulders. And bring the palms together here in front of the heart. And just take a moment to acknowledge your practice. Give thanks for being present with your body and your breath. And I thank you all for joining me today. Namaste.